Well, howdy, and welcome to Conversations with Coyotes. My name is Bravado, I am a coyote, and this is The Conversation. When you first stumble upon this wild world of furry, it can feel magical, like a missing piece. It's exciting to discover that there are other folks out there who are into this same weird niche thing, and you feel a closeness with them just by association. As a result, it's easy to assume that this mutual love of anthropomorphic animals will blossom into beautiful and long-lasting friendships with all the other furries, like a big happy family. It's a nice thought, but it's not long before we come to the realization that furry just ain't that different from everyday life. There are so many wildly varying personalities and preferences that sharing one single common interest ain't the catalyst for friendship we might have hoped. That's not to say it doesn't happen at all, just not to the extent we might initially expect. So it's kind of funny that we have to relearn this lesson when we start to explore the various special interests within furry, whether they're centered on an aspect of the fandom like fursuiting or being a specific species, or just a non-furry interest that has a fandom presence. And while this shared interest now means you have at least 2 points of commonality with these folks, the experience is much the same. Some of them you might immediately click with, and some you won't. The point is that no matter how much you have in common with someone on paper, it's totally possible that you may just not enjoy their company. It's important to understand that that's normal and okay, and while it may feel kinda sad, we can at least find solace in the fact that the opposite can also be true. I don't mean it to sound as though I'm criticizing any of this. We're social creatures by nature, so it's no surprise that we see these groups as opportunities to expand our networks. It don't always pan out, but that don't mean we shouldn't try. Sometimes, though, these groups are built around a brand, and that can be kinda strange. Chances are you can relate to this in some way, whether it's iPhone versus Android, or the console wars, or what kind of car is best, or any other trivial argument that we love to get into on Twitter.com. Having a stance in debates like this implies at least some level of brand loyalty, meaning that now, instead of a shared hobby, it's an enthusiasm for Supreme, or Tesla, or Apple, or whatever it is that's drawing y'all together. Now make no mistake, brands love this. The fact that people are effectively creating their own fan clubs for corporations is better marketing than any amount of money can buy. And while it's not inherently unhealthy, it's also doing you no favors. Letting any brand define your identity is all risk and no reward because their questionable decisions now have the potential to impact your personal image. And like I said earlier, furry just ain't that different from everyday life. So of course there are brands that exist exclusively within our community as well. And as much as we'd like to think otherwise, advocating for them still carries some level of risk. Even animal people make bad decisions sometimes. But the thing that's true of any brand, furry or not, is that you're not really part of the community unless you're willing to put your money where your mouth is. The difference, though, is that if I go out and buy a pair of Jordans, I don't see it as a particularly social opportunity. On the other hand, the relative intimacy of the furry community in particular has resulted in this idea that patronizing an artist, especially a fursuit maker, is akin to joining a family. And if we're able to leave it at that, at the idea that this is simply another group of folks with whom we can potentially make connections, that's fine. But there are two potential pitfalls. The first goes back to what I was talking about earlier, this misguided idea that joining a group is some sort of skeleton key that'll unlock friendships with all the other folks already there, particularly the higher profile ones. This simply ain't how things work, so commissioning a suit with such an expectation will only result in a terribly expensive reminder of that. The other is this idea that entering into a business relationship with an artist also means that we're entitled to their friendship. I think this can be boiled down to the fact that even the most successful furry businesses generally still only consist of a couple folks, and so there's very little insulation between the commissioner and the artist. As a result, you are indeed fostering a relationship with this person, but it can be easy to forget that it's first and foremost a commercial one. The long and short of it is, whether you end up in one of these groups through a common interest or by spending a whole bunch of money, friendship still requires effort and is rarely automatic. Remember, this is still a disparate collection of individuals with their own thoughts and feelings, and merely having one or two data points in common, no matter how esoteric, ain't gonna change that. But even so, being a part of these groups and communities as a whole is so important for our identity and social well-being, even if we don't always get along with or even like everyone in them. I guess that sounds an awful lot like a family after all, huh? Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch y'all later.